Thank you. Good evening, and thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come and meet us tonight. Although maybe not quite as effective as it would be in person, at least we get this virtual chance to be able to welcome you and to be able to obviously talk a little bit about science here at Centennial High School. And as Ms. Bannock just mentioned, I'm so excited to have two very dazzling science teachers with me here tonight. Ms. Soni and Ms. Beliveau that can help you out with any questions specific to biology and physics, of course, general science too, and me, obviously my specific discipline is chemistry. And so just taking a quick glance at science here at Centennial, Ms. Bannock, if you can go to the next slide for me. I just wanted to talk very quickly about the science courses that would be required for you to graduate with your diploma. And so we do have a total of 10 science credits in science. That would be the minimum graduation requirement to be able to acquire a high school diploma or certificate of completion. Students receive 5 credits for each course that they would successfully complete. And of course, successful completion to us does mean a grade of 50% or more in terms of the course that they're taking. Important to note that we definitely don't prorate credits and we don't give partial credits for these particular courses. Next slide, Pam, please. Grade 10 science courses that we offer, if you kind of take a look at the screen right now, when we have students transitioning from junior high into high school, we would like for them to choose one of the following 3 courses that you can see on the screen. We have Science 10, we have Science 14, and then we have Science 10-4, which is our K&E, our Knowledge and Employability Program. Science 10, just to give you a little bit of perspective, and then Avni is going to go a little bit more in depth with this one. We definitely would have the most breadth in terms of program of studies for Science 10. I would be looking at the student from junior high that definitely, hopefully has sparked a little bit of passion. I mean, it doesn't have to be a super great abundance at this point, but some passion towards studying science further in high school. I don't want to say that they all have to excel at it in junior high, but definitely have some interest in terms of going into this particular stream. Science 14, I would say, would be tailored for perhaps a student that maybe, has found science to be a little bit of a struggle in terms of junior high. And obviously, the focus for Science 14 would be on basic skills and knowledge for these particular students in that stream. Science 10-4, we have a focus on basic skills and knowledge as well. Of course, we would be looking at these particular courses designed for students that learn best through experience. Important to note that all of these courses do have units of study that would be related to chemistry, biology, physics, and then of course environment, specifically with really a focus on climate. And so I'm going to pass on to the next slide and to Ms. Soni.
All right, Ms. Soni, you are live. Hi, I'm Avni Soni, and I'm the biology teacher, one of the biology teachers here at Centennial, teaching Bio 20, Bio 30, and I've also taught Science 10. Actually, I've been teaching it right now this semester. So I'm just going to give you kind of like an overview of Science 10. It is an overview, like it says here, of climate. We do get into how climate works, climate change. Then we'll get into biology, like I said, my favorite, and we'll get into chemistry, and we'll get into naming, chemical reactions, and physics, looking at energy transfer and kinematics specifically. With that, it is an introductory course needed for either Bio 20, Chem 20, and Physics 20, and Yvette will talk more about that in the next few slides. We also do amazing labs in our super lab. It's just, I love that space, it's just so great. And we look at graphing, we will look at analyzing the data, we will look at identifying variables, we will look at formula manipulation. So it's good if the students have strong math skills. However, if the student is struggling, we have phenomenal science teachers here that will help the students out. So just kind of like what Stu was talking about, that we're not scary. I don't think we're scary. I love having students come in either before school, during tutorials, ask questions. It's a great way to build the relationship with the students and also know where they're struggling, because especially if there's lots of students who are struggling in that area, we will emphasize that in the class itself. Pam, the next slide, please. Oh, okay, so in Science 14 and Science 10-4, like Jill mentioned, it's not as in-depth as Science 10. So it's just kind of, if they just need that for their high school diploma or their high school certificate, they would be taking Science 14 or Science 10-4. Great thing about these courses is we have lots of time. So we do lots of hands-on activities with the kids in these classes, lots of labs. Our Science 14 and Science 10-4 teachers are amazing with that. Next slide. And I'll pass it off to Yvette, who will talk about course sequencing now.
All right, Ms. Beliveau, you are live.
Thanks, Ms. Bannock. So, hi, my name is Yvette Beliveau, and my specialty is physics for our science program. So I get to work alongside those two lovely science teachers that you just saw, among many others in our department. So what I wanted to talk about in the beginning today is just a bit about our course sequencing, which tends to be more complex than the other programs just because of the availability of courses that we have in our upper level sciences, which I think is really a wonderful thing. Our young scientists can kind of find their passion and they're able to explore it further in their 20 and 30 level courses. So Jill mentioned a little bit earlier about the requirements for your graduation for your diploma in science. And you only need a minimum, I believe it was, of 10 credits. If you do decide, if students decide they want to take Science 14, they should just be aware that it's only a prerequisite for Science 24 at the upper level courses. And along with similarly our Science 10-4, it only works as a prerequisite for our Science 20-4 program. So just something for our scientists and our students to kind of think about when they're entering grade 10 and they're choosing that first primary science course that they take. And then Avni dove into a little bit more explanation of what we offer for our Science 10 and Science 14 courses. So Science 10 acts as our prerequisite for all of our other upper level science courses. So this includes Science 20, Physics, Biology, and Chemistry 20. And Pam, if you could flip to the next slide. So we actually recommend that students get a 65% in Science 10 before we actually would really recommend them to pursue that Biology 20, Chemistry 20, or Physics 20, just because it's a full semester worth of content in those areas, in those subject areas. So it tends to be more challenging academic material. So it really helps for students to have that passion in those areas in order to pursue and just excel in the 20 level courses. So if you're kind of wondering about those students that kind of fall on that spectrum of in between, that 50 to 65%, our recommendation would actually be for our students to take Science 20. So I love this Science 20 course that we offer. It's similar in nature to our Science 10, and that we don't go into much detail on any one specific unit. It follows, any one particular topic. We have 4 units in Science 20. I believe they're physics, chemistry, biology, and geology. So it's really an extension of Science 10 and just a wonderful a wonderful option for our students who don't necessarily want to get super involved into any one specific science in the 20 level, but just want to take another general overview if they still are interested in getting challenged on that academic side of science. And also, I'm not sure if you saw in the previous slide, we don't have to go back, but there's a Science 30 level option for our students in grade 12 or at the 30 level course. And that can actually be taken with any 20 level science as a prerequisite. So if you have Biology 20, Chemistry 20, or Physics 20, and you decide you don't want to pursue it at the 30 level the next year, Science 30 is an option for our students as well. And then Science 20 acts as a prerequisite for our Science 30. Okay, and Pam, I think we can go to the next slide. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is our AP Science program. So we are fortunate to offer the Science 10 AP program. I was fortunate to be the teacher of the Science 10 APs this semester. And this is an absolutely wonderful, phenomenal program. So The actual course curriculum is not differed from our curriculum that we offer Science 10. And what I mean by that is the assessments that we do for both our Science 10 and our Science 10 AP are the same. So we assess them at the Science 10 academic level, which means the final exam and the unit tests are all that Science 10 curriculum for Alberta. However, what is different is the pacing. We push the pace, it's much faster, and we teach more in depth to certain units. So at the end of every unit, we actually go ahead and do what I call bonus learning. I don't know if they're as excited about it as I am, but if they're in AP, it's usually because they're passionate about science. And that means that we can kind of delve into some topics and some early entry level things that they'll be seeing at the 20 level in those different subject areas. So it's a wonderful program. I can't sing its praises high enough. And of course, with enough student interest, we're able to offer it at the upper level sciences as well. Okay.
Ms. Belleville, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but a question was just asked that is directly related to what you're speaking about. So I thought I'd just throw it at you. Does AP Science equal more assignments?
So honestly, yes, it does. So again, so how we run our program is that we do not assess for their mark that you would receive at the end of the level unless it's part of the Science 10 curriculum. However, I typically always gave my students 1 to 2 more assignments at the end of the unit when we were jumping into that bonus learning. So yes, they receive more assignments, but those extra additional AP assignments that they receive do not count as part of their Science 10 grade. I hope that helps answer it.
So it's more for enrichment. It's not like it's just piling on work.
That's correct. Yeah, I would say it's much more for enrichment. They kind of relax when they get to those assignments and they can have more fun with it. They don't have to stress about that being part of that grade that they receive for their Science 10 course. Okay. Yeah, that was actually all I had. So I believe if you could, our lovely admin team is on it in the Q&A box. So we'll stick around if you guys have any questions for us and our science department. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are devastated that we can't see you in person. One day, I'm convinced, hopefully sooner than later, we can return to our in-person Super Lab for our open house. It really is wonderful, as I think Avni was mentioning our Super Lab before, and it gets our students excited to come in and to do some hands-on learning. So hopefully you'll get a chance to see it in person over the next couple of years as well.
Awesome, thank you. And I will read a couple questions, and apologies if you've answered some of them already, because I've been typing, responding to some of the questions and not hearing everything that you've mentioned. But one question was, will Science 10 go into electrical or not? I don't know if you've responded to that one yet.
I don't think we actually talked about that. So yeah, I would say no. We don't cover like electricity. That really becomes more involved in the upper level physics, especially physics 30 levels. But Jill, if you want to add to it, I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's a big component of electrical, definitely in grade 9 science. I remember that from when I taught grade 9. You touch upon it definitely, like Yvette mentioned, in physics 30, but we're really looking at kinematics in science 10 for sure, and then the continuation of that into physics 20. But yeah, no real electrical until physics 30, and I know that it's quite a small component of the physics 30 curriculum.
Thank you. And then a couple questions that are focused on kind of long-term career paths that are quite interesting to me. So I took a shot at the dermatologist question. If someone wants to be a dermatologist, then what path should they follow? I mean, like, which subjects would be more important? So I'm no dermatologist, but I'm guessing biology, chemistry, potentially cosmetology, sports med, but I thought you science people could probably answer that more eloquently than I.
I think that's a really good educated answer, Mr. Sturgeon, because that's what I would have went with as well. You don't have to have all 3 sciences to go into, I mean, obviously dermatology would be going into med school first. There's definitely a lot of students that have med school in their future aspirations, and I think that a lot of them believe that they need to take all 3 sciences. They definitely don't. You would obviously see a component of, physics and chemistry and biology on an MCAT. when you wrote it, but you can absolutely, I mean, I would probably devote my time to biology and chemistry, and then you would continue on with obviously an undergrad in university that would then help you get into med school when you applied. And really your undergraduate for med school at this point, you've got a plethora of options that you could take. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a science undergrad at this point. I mean, you can get into med school with a music degree. It's very different over the years and it's changed faces. And I know that they're obviously looking for high academics, but they're also very much looking at interpersonal skills that students are bringing forward. And it's a big, big component of the interview process. And I only get so much knowledge because we have so many kids that we've had, like, well, that we've been so blessed to teach in the past, that, you know, reach out and they like to obviously tell us how life is going in university. And so we get all of this information from them. And so, yeah, for dermatology, you're looking at a lot of obviously specialization after getting into med school. But yeah, I would say that Mr. Sturgeon's answer was A+, especially for being a former social studies teacher.
Well, I do have nice skin. So another question asked, and I can answer a little bit of this, and then I'll turn it back to you, Ms. Godfrey. But someone who wants to pursue a career in neurology, and I know that I mean, there's definitely the scientific component to that, and I suspect biology is a big piece of it. And I would also encourage, if you're interested in that type of brain science, to consider our psychology options, which in experimental psychology 30, which you can take usually in grade 12, but potentially in grade 11, does have a bit of depth into that particular subject area. And I know also in our sports medicine program, they spend quite a bit of time discussing head injuries and the general neurology as a whole. But I don't know if you want to add to that, Ms. Godfrey.
Yeah, and actually, you know what, and Avni could probably help me out with this. A couple years ago, we actually had a student from Centennial that applied to the neurology program at U of C. They only accept, I believe it was 30, Avni, correct me if it's 20. I'm talking about Jasper, yeah.
Yeah, Jasper, I was thinking Jasper too. Yeah, I think it's like 20 or 30. And I agree with Joe there saying, yeah, definitely psychology, because I've had students in Bio 30 when we go into the brain unit, they're like, oh, we've already talked about this in psych, or like in the sports med where they've talked about the head and all the injuries that can happen with that. So those would be great options to take alongside Bio 30 with that, for sure.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Super prestigious program, obviously super highly competitive, but having a Centennial graduate that made it into that program, and obviously he's in his second year now. I do remember him taking psychology as his options, and obviously he was super passionate based on a personal situation in his life as to why he wanted to be a neurologist. But pretty cool. And of course, along with that, you need to consider that you have a pretty stacked, or you want a pretty stacked resume when you apply for a program like neurology. And so it just means getting really involved at Centennial in terms of all of our programs that we offer, extracurriculars, along with doing a lot of work in the community as well. In terms of volunteering, can go a really long way.
Thank you. And I know Ms. DeLeon will speak more to advanced placement in a little while, but there's a question asking, does joining advanced placement allow for more science experiments?
You know what, there are definitely AP specific experiments that we have to run, especially when you get into the grade 12 level of AP, because those students will write an AP exam in May, and they may have questions specifically to those AP designed labs. I have to be honest though, we do a lot of labs, all of us in our courses, and so I don't really want to classify it as an AP thing to do labs. Because it's a really important piece. It obviously allows for students to bring their curiosity into the lab. It allows them to be, you know, critical thinkers, inquiry-based learning. And so as much as we get them, or we can get them into the lab, we try to. So yeah, I don't want to pin that on AP, because speaking as a chemistry teacher, we're in the lab a lot. Applying concepts that we obviously have done in class, or we've learned obviously from me as a teacher directed thing that we obviously want them to go and display to us in a different setting. And as the girls mentioned, we have the most amazing science lab that we get to use. And Avni, Yvette, do you want to add anything about your labs? Because I know that you do a lot in bio. Dissections, obviously.
Yes, in Bio 20, we get to dissect the heart, and we've switched over to fresh hearts, so it's great. They're more malleable, and it's just a wonderful day when we do that. And we do the fetal pig dissection, which I think the Bio 20s just did on Wednesday. And in Bio 30, we do the eye dissection and brain. So for that person who wants to go into neurology, that would be ideal. And we can do an endocrine lab. So yeah, there are quite a few labs, more so in Bio 20. I think Bio 30 is just jam-packed with a lot of content. So it's harder to fit more labs in there, for sure, definitely.
Yeah, and I can speak to the Science 10 labs that we did this semester in AP, and because we were able to push the pace, whenever we had a few extra days in a unit, I would always try to add an extra lab on the end of our unit when we could. So for example, for our biology unit, we had a few extra days of extra content, and I was able to get a dissection for us in our Science 10 AP, which was limited to the AP course and unfortunately not for the regular Science 10, although as Jill mentioned, all of our science teachers in Science 10, we do a lot of labs anyway, but we're able to sneak an extra one in to the AP where possible.
We have quite a few future doctors, and our science teachers have quite a bit of knowledge. Do you want to take a stab at how many years med school could be? I know it depends. I coach soccer with a doctor who's a stomach specialist who spent 11 years of post-secondary to get his final specialization, but he's also one of the leading people in the world in his area. So I don't know if you guys want to take a shot at that one.
Yeah, I was going to say first, like specialist, you're looking at around, I would say 12 years is kind of like the ballpark. And that's just going from somebody that I know also that's a gastro specialist. I believe that you're looking at 3 or 4 years for your undergrad, depending if it's a bachelor or an honors that you would want to complete. For med school, 4, right? Including your residency. Avni, I think you have like a doctor in the family.
Yes, so it would be, so because there's 4 years of, undergrad, 3 or 4 years depending, and then 4 years of med school, and then I think she's now doing her residency, so another 2 years, and then depending on what the specialization, then I'd say specialization definitely 12. So depending on if you want to be just a general GP, family doctor, or if you're going to specialize in one area.
And like surgeons, 12. Anything, right? Yeah.
Question says, what science complements the forensic science option if that is a desired career path?
Chemistry and biology.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, like not so much physics, right? Physics, engineering, right? X-ray techs, right? You're thinking about physics. Yeah, a lot of our kids that are physics, chemistry as they're taught too, they tend to go into engineering, whereas our biochem kids are the ones that tend to go into the science route, I find. I mean, but there's lots of kids that take, that take all 3 as well. It really you're gonna once you hit Science 10 and you start to see these units, that's when I say that a lot of kids start to really kind of define, what was their favorite.
Thank you. And then would biology help if I wanted to work with flowers? Anything between flower shops to science with plants, either that or psychology. And we have psychology, as we've mentioned a few times here, not officially connected to our science program. I would suggest, of course, biology. Ms. Godfrey, what do you think? Yeah,
definitely biology. We do plant biology in Science 10, and then it's very much human systems in grade 11 and grade 12. And so you would be going into university.
I'm going to interject a little bit. So we definitely do go into photosynthesis in Bio 20 as well, and cellular respiration and then we do like the leaf cross section and all that in Science 10 as well. So definitely would be taking your Science 10, Bio 20, and Bio 30 for that. As well, because then and then we get into the environment and that sort of thing in Bio 30 for sure.
And then like
So
first year
definitely
university, right? Most of them do like plant biology first semester, animal biology second semester, and then you can start specializing in like your, not always your second year of university, because sometimes that's pretty much set for you. But then you would start taking a lot of your plant-based courses.
Okay, and since we have time, I'm just going to keep throwing these curveballs at you because you have such good answers. If I'd like to be a dentist, what courses might you recommend? Man, we have a lot of grade 9 people who know what they want to do. It took me to my 6th year university to know for sure I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah,
so a dentist.
Yeah, dentistry. I have 2 former students that are now actually practicing dentists. They definitely took biology and chemistry. Trying to think, it's way back now. I remember the one specifically really did not enjoy physics. And so, yeah, he was a chem and bio. I mean, you know, you absolutely could take all 3 sciences, but I don't see physics carrying over, right, in terms of dentistry.
No, where are my future engineers? We need.
I know, there's all doctors. Yeah, they all want to be doctors.
Another course I would say also, because some universities are starting to accept Science 30 as well for the program. So you might want to look at that as an option as well, because it is like a nice overview of everything, especially if the student has taken Bio 20, Chem 20, Physics 20, they will excel. That same student we talked about who's doing neurology took Science 30 and just crushed the course. And I think was able to use it. I'll have to talk to him about it, but I think he was able to, which is why he took that course. Do you know, yeah, Jill?
I think he was. That's something that definitely you'd want to look into at whatever post-secondary institution that you were looking, right? That might be your number 1 or number 2. Like, do they accept Science 30? Because, yeah, the top academic kids that do take Science 30, like Abby mentioned, yeah, they absolutely excel and they get really high marks. And obviously that helps to be competitive when you're looking at getting into universities, which is just a really highly competitive thing at this point.
Yeah.
Another question about veterinary medicine or wanting to be a vet. My son wants to be a vet. Should he take biology and chemistry, or can he take the Science 10, 20, 30 route and still be accepted into vet school? Now, I'm not sure if you know that answer or not. And if not, I do encourage any students to always check with their guidance counselors about their kind of long range plans, because they do have a lot of that information if we don't.
Yeah, I think that I would advise your child to definitely go the more rigorous route, which would be the Bio 20, the Chem 20, the Physics 20, and then of course the specialized Chem 30, Bio 30. I think that would be more applicable and more relevant because of course, even being a veterinarian, right, you're going to go into an undergrad that is probably largely science-based. And I think that particular stream would be more rigorous and have content that would be more carried over into those university programs that of course would be taken more so than the Science 20, Science 30 stream. And to be honest with you, I'm trying to think about it. I don't know if Science 30 would be accepted because the veterinarian, that's a tough program to get into, and I'm not sure about the Science 30. And so, yeah, I absolutely would be working with a guidance counselor on that one.
I was going to jump in as well. This is Ms. Bannock, assistant principal here. I used to be a guidance counselor as well. And what I would say with any of your sort of medical fields, so if you're looking at doctor programs, vet programs, or even dental programs, they're typically after degree programs. So students will typically go into a science-based undergraduate program to start out with. And then in their 3rd or 4th year, they would then apply into those vet medical programs if they're going to write an MCAT, or in dentistry, usually when they move into their 3rd or 4th year university. So as Ms. Godfrey said, those higher academic biology and chemistry courses are often really, really important, as well as physics, depending on sort of what route you want to go.
I think most of our questions have been answered to this point. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to keep answering what I can in the Q&A section.
Thank you, and please make sure that if you have any questions that we haven't answered, that you absolutely do send an email. We really are excited to welcome your kids into Centennial, and of course, kind of like the sentiment from Stu in terms of social, we don't want them to fear science. Hopefully you've gotten a little bit of a vision in terms of just us as people, that we just really love what we do, and we're super excited to be able to offer the disciplines that we obviously enjoy, and hopefully to instill the passion that we have for what we teach in your children as well.
Thank you so much. Miss Beliveau, I'm going to throw one more out at you. We have some students that are looking at engineering post-high school, and I know that there is a pretty specific set of courses that they need in their high school courses in order to jump into engineering after high school, and I thought I'd throw that one out to you to answer. So specifically, what programs would I have to take for mechanical engineering along with constructional engineering?
So I'm actually a big believer in that all the sciences kind of build together, and they'll always help you with the other sciences. But if you're looking at any type of engineering, a physics background is going to be instrumental in that. And we actually offer pre-engineering at Centennial High School, which is an extremely popular and well-loved course. So I definitely recommend that if you have a passion for engineering, to sign into our pre-engineering course. And then of course our upper level physics courses. And I would actually recommend taking a calculus course. And I know our math department is going to sign on after this, but calculus is one of those things that kind of pops up in university level physics courses or engineering courses as you continue with that degree. So that would be something that I would put on your radar as well.